Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Faith, Family, and Friends. Waiting in the wings are a couple friends of mine, and we're going to dial into them all the way from Michigan to Maine. Hello, Brent and Linisa.
Hello.
Hello there.
Yeah, hello there. I love to hear that accent. Oh, my God. I miss it. Too long here in Michigan. What'd you say? Say that again. You know, they either don't understand it or they want to, like, oh, that was so cool. Say it again. I get tired of it. Like, so I try to go home for 2 weeks in the summer. My wife and I to obviously to see family and friends, but to recover that accent. So, so you guys are zooming us or not? Actually, we're StreamYarding you. You on the island or you in Jonesport?
So we actually live in Herman.
Yeah.
Herman. Sorry.
Right.
Your roots are Beal's Island,
Jonesport.
Jonesport.
And
Big diff, right?
There's a huge difference.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
There's a huge difference. And in fact, I'm from Masons Bay, which is even more different than being from
bougie, more bougie
Jonesport or
than
Beal.
Right. And my dad, my second dad, Donald Beal, would say that too. Don't ever mix us up with Beal Islanders, right?
He was a Jonesporter.
Yes, and his
That's
blood
right.
his blood runs blue, politically as well. But anyway, we won't go there.
Who's his dad?
What's that?
Who's Donald's dad?
His dad, I forget his name. He was a coastie. I believe he kept the lighthouse, and Edith with his mother. We always joke and say Edith's boy. His twin brother, David, and they're identical in most every way, but they went separate ways. David in education is superintendent of 102 for a while. He lost his wife a couple of years ago, complications from COVID. Of course, my mother, as you probably know, is in the nursing home.
Yes.
And so we're related, Linisa. Now, tell me, is your grandmother was Aunt Dot? Is that right, or am I?
Yes. So
Good.
Jack was my dad. He passed
Okay.
away in December. So he
Yeah.
would have been your first cousin.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And
So we're second cousins.
cousins. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
And
Yeah.
Sandra, she's in the nursing home in Machias. Is that
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Donald takes it for a ride in the wheelchair every day. But I have fond memories of Aunt Dot. Just kind of, I like to share that real quick. Visiting her when she was sick, and she knew the Lord real strong. She has such a sweet spirit about her. Yeah, they all were great people. The looks.
I was her Nini.
Yours are Mimi?
No, she called me Nini.
Meanie.
Yeah.
Okay.
She watched me so my mother, Lorna, could graduate high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's sweet. Wow, I
Yeah.
love it. So, Brent, you are a Beal through and through.
I am.
Jonesport.
Yeah.
That lineage goes all the way back to the main big guy, right? That had all those kids.
It goes back to Tall Barney Beal.
Tall Barney Beal.
Wow.
And it actually goes back even further than that.
Okay.
We've traced it back to the early 1600s. The Beal family at that time had an E on the end of it, so Beale.
Yeah.
And they first landed in the Yarmouth region.
Okay.
Down Yarmouth and
So the
You
main.
can lose the ass. He's
Oh
hungry.
yeah.
for
Please do.
tongue.
Please do. Don't let me.
and so originally they started in Yarmouth, and then migrated up the coast and ended up in what was then Jonesboro.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of the looks came from there actually originally.
Yeah.
Yep.
So and so in 1832, the village of Jonesport got kind of mad because at being part of Jonesboro, it took them a day and a half sometimes to get to Jonesboro proper to have the town meeting, and so they got mad and said, we want our own town. We want to be incorporated. So in 1832, Jonesport broke off and became incorporated as a town.
And so did Beal's Island follow thereafter?
So Beal's Island, so it was always Beal's Island was always part of Jonesport until 1925.
Oh, that's quite late. Yeah.
When Beal's Island became their own town. So,
wow. Well, I have fond memories of going to Great Watts and visiting Pastor Franklin Libby, good friend of mine.
Yeah.
His new wife is still living. She's in the nursing home near my mother. I connected the two of them last year, and her mind, because she can hear but can't, she can understand but can't hear. So she has a little tablet you write on, and I was able to share with her. There's Mom, because they were very close. Mom and Dad, my biological dad, drove the seafood truck for Franklin and Eleanor for a few years. And of course, he was our pastor for a number of years. And so a lot of fond memories going over to Great Watts Island. And of course, we have some other friends there too. So I want to let our audience to know it's not just our old home night tonight, but if it is, it's okay. Because I have had people say to us, well, wish you did more interviews with people we knew. Franklin Johnson, if you're listening, I get it. But we do try to do a kind of a, I don't know, what would you say, Amy, a potpourri of different people. So it's always good. It warms my heart to be able to connect to back home and down East Main. And so it's great to have you. I was following your vacations. You guys go all over the place, my God.
We had fun. We don't do it very often, but we had a good time.
So this year was our 20th anniversary.
Okay.
And
congratulations.
We thank you. We try to go and explore different areas of the country whenever we can.
Okay.
When we're able, we're very blessed to be able to do that. And this year we were going to go back to Hawaii. We've been there a couple of times. We went there on a honeymoon. We went there on our 10th anniversary. And I hate to say that it was.
It's going to sound very pompous.
It's going to sound very pompous, but we were like, we've been there and done that.
No, it doesn't. You're down there. You're not pompous.
And so my dad, my dad was in the Korean War in between 1953 and 1955. He was stationed in Japan.
Yeah.
And they always had there was always a picture. And the picture was of him standing in front of Mount Rainier in Washington State in his uniform. And he didn't really talk about his time in the Army other than he loved it in Japan.
Right.
Very, very similar to many of the guys and girls that have fought for our country. They don't talk about that a lot because it's just something you did. It is, and some of it was difficult. And so anyway, we had that picture of him, and around this time last year, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do for our anniversary. And I said I've always had a drawing to go to the Pacific Northwest. I love that area. You've seen it in movies, you've seen it in pictures, and I wanted to go there and see.
I wanted to get out of the damp. I was picturing it to be damp and dreary and rainy, and I'm like, we live there. I don't need to. I'm gonna have to travel across the country to get that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I said would be cool. I'd be like, hey, I always have this picture of my dad standing in front of Mount Rainier in Washington. He was on leave from the Army. They had come into Seattle for some reason. And he and a couple of buddies, I think, there was a picture of three of them. And he's standing in front of, this mountain. And I said, wouldn't it be cool to recreate this picture? None of my family had ever been back out to Washington State. We didn't have any reason to be out there.
Right.
So that's what we decided we were going to do on our vacation. It was one of the things that we purposed to do. And so this August, the very first thing we did when we landed in Seattle the next day is we drove up to Mount Rainier, and it was spectacular.
It occurred to us on the ride up there, though, there's only one way to the visitor center. And I said, because I'm a historian, I'm a pretty sentimental historian.
That's good.
So I had said that we're traveling the same road,
Right, the road
the
hasn't
exact
changed.
same road that your dad, like.
That's so cool.
And the picture, one of the pictures that we had taken and shared in that post was a picture of a blue metal roof. And that was always a big laughing point because my father-in-law had a blue metal roof installed on his house in Jonesport, and it was the ugliest thing that you can imagine. It was like Play-Doh blue. I mean, it was light colored, just ugly. And we went past this building, and I was like, oh my word, Brent, you've got to turn around. I've got to have a picture of that building. I'm like, what if that was the inspiration for your dad?
Yeah, right.
Right.
And it clicked with him years later. Oh, I'll put a light blood. Oh my word. And then the trees.
So one of I'm trying to find the picture to share with everybody.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that we noticed as we were driving up the mountain, okay, was my wife kept saying, "Look at these trees. They're beautiful. We're at the top of these trees." And
I didn't know we were at the top.
And I said, "Well, these are just the tops of the trees. There's 400 feet below us that they're growing, these huge trees." She said, "What kind of trees are they?" And I said, "They're Douglas fir trees.
Yes.
And they're native to Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
They're not native to Maine."
Right.
Douglas fir tree, there are different species of Douglas fir tree, but the ones that we had in Washington are not native to Maine.
Right.
But my father always talked about, he was always proud of his Douglas fir trees that he planted out behind the shed out in the house in Jonesport.
Wow. And
it came from the trip that he took up this mountain in Washington State. He was there. He loved those trees. And that's all he would talk about. He'd tell everybody about these Douglas fir trees. He's the only Douglas fir trees in Jonesport, you know. So
probably in all of Maine.
Yeah. So it was really, and they're still. We've sold the house.
Yeah.
Now, but their trees are still there.
Growing good. Wow.
You go down by, they're there. But so it was just really cool that we were on this same road that he traveled 70 years ago.
Wow.
In 1954.
Yeah.
And, you know, these same sites that we saw. And so, you know, we were able to.
There's that ugly blue roof.
Yeah.
I'm not able to see this.
I don't, yeah, you can't.
I don't know if you can go closer. Let's see. I'm going to minimize me if I can. I don't know how to do that.
How come I can't see?
Because you have the background on.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought you had it. I didn't know if that was your Hussey grand piano there.
No, that's some sort of.
No, it's the background.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Get them back. All right. Let's try to get you guys bigger, but
I don't know if you can see that picture.
Well, it looks like your dad. Is that your dad?
That's my dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the picture that we took, and then here's this fat guy that recreated that picture 70 years later.
I love it.
I'm a lot older than he was in that picture, and I'm certainly not in any kind of uniform. But so it was really enjoyable. We had a great time, and it was an amazing country.
Yeah, there's something to be said about reconnecting to history. I don't know that. I wish. I mean, in all my education and learning, I think the one regret I have is not studying history enough, because I really like it. And I like it for the reasons I think you guys do and other people seem to. It's not just about dates. When you connect, especially if it's your family, with a piece of history like you guys did, you almost get goosebumps. And I'm sure you did driving up that road.
Yeah.
Recreating that. It almost makes you cry.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to explain it, but I just think there's something God puts in all of us to want to belong. And then when we can find that root way back, it just resonates. I mean, there's a reason why. And when I share my stories about my mother, for a while, it was called Conversations with Mother.
I
But
love
people, I was just getting it out of my system. And, I journal on Facebook as much as I do with my books, because I'm right there. And I didn't realize the effect it had on people who maybe didn't even know her, but yet they related to their mother like that or somebody. And it was a familiarity of the human experience with family, with friends. And it just makes us all feel belonging. I don't mean to sound, hey, we're all part of the universe. I'm not saying that, but in some way, that's true.
True.
Yeah, I think it's built into us.
Yes.
We have to know. We have to know the building blocks that we come from. I think it's important.
Yep.
To be able to reach back and to know what our ancestors have done, and that in history is just so important.
It is.
I'm a huge history buff. I really am.
That's good. I'm teaching history.
I like genealogy.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was something my dad and I always did. My grandfather, Joseph, Dot's husband,
yes,
did, and his mother. So I have my great grandmother's handwriting in a notebook where she just wrote out her history of the Driscoll family, and that's so precious to me. I mean, it's just who has something like that, And before my dad had dementia, we would ride around before even the internet. We would ride around on Sundays and just look at cemeteries, and that was what we did. Drove my mother crazy. And
I love it too.
When my husband and I met, I was well on the path to putting my genealogy into a program my dad had bought me called Family Tree Maker, and computers had first come out.
Yeah.
And well, anyway, fast forward, I married my husband, and then he's like, well, maybe I want to look back on my family, and I'm like, go ahead, do it. I mean, it's very addictive, but yes, you can do it.
Yeah.
So I have our family history, the fish line, which would be this great grandmother's maiden name, and I have that back to 1100. And my kids were like, Mom, you gotta stop, because eventually your genealogy is going to be in the beginning.
Back to Noah.
Well, I didn't realize you had the fish line, so then you must be related to Barbara Fish.
Or it's got to be in there. I have to look, because I can't. Long ago stopped memorizing all the names that were in there, but it was actually Fyshe, Fyshe, from England.
Yep.
And I am the 38th great granddaughter of William the Conqueror. Not that he was a very nice guy.
Yeah.
It's a piece of information.
Yeah.
He likes to drop that quite a lot.
We all have our skeletons.
Yes, right.
So it's so precious to hear this. I know on the look side, our name in Scotland was Luke, I believe.
Yes.
Then it was Look, and then they dropped the E when they came here. Much as you said, Beal was like that. Yeah. So there's a lot to that. And I guess what made me think about in watching your trip there to Washington, not only my sister-in-law lives in Seattle, but I had learned that the Prestons, my grandmother was a Preston, way down the road, and Stephen could confirm this, Stephen Preston, my cousin, that there were some Prestons who left down East Maine and went to Washington as lumberers.
Oh, I bet.
I bet. So I guess that was where I started getting confused, because we have so many guests. And so I had thought more about your story but this is beautiful talking about it. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like,
I'll send you your line. Because I can put your name in, and it will pull up all of that Preston, what I have for information anyway.
That'd be great. I know Stephen did quite a bit of it, and I know Melanie Ferguson has done a lot on the look side. Yeah.
And I have her book, and I actually Daddy bought me a copy of the book. He bought himself a copy of the book, but I actually got in touch with Melanie the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
and she sent me the digital file of all of those pictures.
Oh,
Would
wow.
you like a copy of those?
Oh my gosh, yes.
That would be really cool. It's really cool to
Yay.
go through her book. It's all in black and white. But then
Yeah.
you open it up, and she's got all of these color pictures. And I was like,
Ooh.
oh my word, Melanie, what a job that must have been
It
for you.
was. I remember when she was doing it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then it led me down a journey to look at old pictures. One of the things that was bequeathed me, and then I want to talk about letter writing, if you don't mind, military letters, and see if Brent, your dad had written, because my creative writing class, we're doing fictional letters from home or to home from the war. And so I'm reading different ones, and they've got to get into the mind of whoever it may be and write a letter. But my aunt bequeathed to me my dad's lunchbox. It was actually my grandfather's. And in that lunchbox are all these letters I never knew existed from my grandmother to him.
Are you talking about Francis?
No, it was on the Ackley side.
On the Ackley side.
Okay. Ackley, he was in the Army. Well, I never knew my grandparents to be together. They divorced before I was born. They always got along, but they didn't, to read those letters. Oh my gosh, the love that they had for one another. Her nickname for him was Bub. I didn't know this. My dad was 4. My Uncle Jimmy was 2. And to read about the people in Holmes Bay, the looks, so-and-so has just been by, and it was just tears just running down my. Awesome. I read one to the kids today because I was trying to give them examples. We did Civil War a couple days ago. We did World War I yesterday. Today we World War II on the video, and then I shared these because he was in World War II, and I could hardly make it. Aww. And thankfully, we work in a Christian school, and the kids are great. And I think I saw one of the boys. He started tearing up just because I was like, but it is so great, the whole letter writing thing. And I think the National Archives, I know they do. They have all the Civil Wars. A lot of the Civil War letters they were, depending on their social status, but the handwriting in their education. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Lisa has a few letters that Dot wrote to Joe.
I have letters that when he was in the Army that she wrote and his mother wrote and his great aunts wrote him. And so I have all of those. And
what a treasure.
2 years ago scanned them and compiled them into a book for my dad called Letters from Home with his pictures of the military.
Yeah.
So I get that a lot. But I also have Civil War records of my great-great-grandfather. It would have been Joe's great-grandfather.
Okay, yeah.
I have his Civil War records. I have my grandfather's military records because he, what do you call it? Not commissioned them, but requested them through the National Archives.
Yes, you can do that, right.
Yeah, but they come on like 13 by 19 pieces of paper.
Oh, wow.
So, unfortunately, the only thing you can do is like kind of half fold them and tuck them away.
Yeah.
But I 3 months ago requested digital records from the National Archives, which they're doing now. Today's deadline. Today's makes the 3-month mark. I haven't heard from them yet, but the
wheels turn slow.
Yes.
The government.
Yes, they do. They do. Well, I'm sharing a song I'd like you to look up. I don't know if you can see the comment section. If you can't see it, I'll send it to you later. But it's a song by Mark Schultz called "Letters from Home," and you might want to check that out because it's real. It's a tearjerker, and he's a Christian singer, but it's a great video to watch. Is what we're talking about here.
Nice.
I got started on that a few years ago when at Elm Street School where I taught. Karen Fulmer was doing a unit on Civil War in the 4th grade, and she played this song called "Ashcan Farewell" from the Civil War documentary by Ken Burns, and didn't have the speech behind it or the letter, but I was like a mess again. And I read that when people hear that song by J. Unger, Molly Madison, there's just this uncanny, weird feeling. And so when they dovetailed the letter from Sullivan Ballou to his wife in the Civil War into that music, it's just, he died. It's haunting, hauntingly beautiful. He died, but the love that he had for his wife, you've got to check that out at some point. Sullivan Ballou, and they play the letter behind it. Some of the better videos have obviously Matthew Brady's photography, of that terrible conflict in our country. But
Yeah.
I mean, that started, I think, World War I. There were a lot of letters going back and forth. That was the Great War. It was a terrible war because we were getting into these new weapons, right?
That's right.
Chemicals and larger guns and tanks.
Biological weapons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the boys that fought in those trenches, what they had to put up with. Wow.
No wonder they don't want to talk about it.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. My grandfather never did, but one day he came up on his orange moped and got off that moped and we started chatting. You know, if you knew Lee, I don't know if you knew my grandfather, Linisa. My father's Lee, but he's just an old codger and everybody calls him Droop, you know, and they used to throw bait for his supper out of the bait truck going by. I mean, he hit money in walls. He had checks he never cashed. I could say because I loved him, you know.
Yeah, right.
And he knew that, but he started talking about the conflict and how he was in France. And because I was always kind of afraid to tell him, ask, because I didn't know, you know, like you said. But
Right.
How was your dad with talking about the Korean War?
He didn't talk about the war much. Obviously, he was stationed in Japan.
Yeah.
And he was in communication.
Yeah.
So he was working with
Telegraph.
yeah.
Oh yeah, right. And
Stuff like that. Matter of fact,
Probably
he
sent
would
a lot of
always tell the
messages.
story. He's like, we had the first microwaves. We were using the first microwaves back
Yes.
then.
yeah,
Um,
wow.
so I think he did his service. He didn't talk too much about it. He certainly didn't see any conflict.
Yeah,
But I think that kind of instilled in me how important it is
Follow through.
for our veterans.
yes,
And
sure. Yeah.
and we are certainly a huge
Military
family. We support whatever we can.
Good.
Our son was in the Navy for 12 years.
Wow. Great.
And he did a tour over in Iraq.
Yep.
He just,
And our oldest granddaughters,
his daughters, both of
his daughters, her
Boy.
hopefully soon to be fiance is in the National Guard. He's going to make a career out of it.
Oh, great.
And Lenisa's brother was in the Army. So we've got a whole wall downstairs dedicated to our veterans and our family and our heritage, because it's just so important. And I'm always, whenever we have company, I always take them down and show them that. I have the flag that the Legion that they did when my dad died. They folded the flag and presented it to my mom, and
then grandfather,
and then the one from our grandfather. We have both of those on display.
That's great. Wow.
It's important that kids these days,
Yes.
and not just kids either.
No.
A lot of the
adults.
population don't appreciate
Yeah.
what we have and what we say is freedom, and
Yes.
why we have that freedom,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
how fragile that freedom is.
Yeah. It is.
And I'm just proud that I have that heritage. I can reach back and,
Yes.
and have that foundation.
And pass it forward. I mean,
Pass it forward,
it's kind of like the genealogy. I mean, it makes us who we are. I mean, we like the song "Proud to Be an American."
Right.
And
you can't be ashamed. You
No.
can't be ashamed of where you've come from.
Right.
You can't change the past. The only thing you can change is the future.
Yes.
You
And
know,
we can learn from the past. Nobody's, patriotism doesn't mean, and appreciating our veterans doesn't mean that you broad brush any of the things that happened that weren't good.
No.
It just means that despite that, I mean, think about those who were in the Vietnam War. They got mistreated so badly.
Horrible.
And thankfully, we finally recognized them a few years ago.
Right.
And, had the memorial. But I just think no matter what the conflict was, they went, they fought, they gave it all. Some returned, some did not. And when people are afraid to fight for what's right, and it's not a conflict with guns and so forth, and they back away, I tell them, you need to remember our veterans. And I'm sure you had some. So don't give up the battle. Don't back down. If you see a freedom of speech or freedom of this or that that's being impinged upon by a state or federal government, we need to stand up for that, whether it's the right to bear arms or
Any
the
right.
religion, freedom of speech. And I think they're being eroded. But I like to make that comparison because these people that we love dearly and we miss, who are in the grave now, fought for us to have those freedoms. And